the Autism Planning Lab. So we had some questions from our last episode, and it was really good to get some feedback from everyone. So just waiting for, just giving you a moment just to come right in. But my name is Denise, and I am a mom who decided to start sharing my story about helping my son, our son, who is struggling with autism. And his struggle, now that he's 18, we are now guardianship and trying to understand and navigate what the roads of what's happening in guardianship. So along the way, we are finding out that there are a lot of other families are not familiar with it. I know that many of us who are raising children with autism are finding out that we have care managers or professionals in place to help with the life plan. And we have those life plan meetings, but there are some things that sneak through the cracks that are not on our radar until the last moment. So the Autism Planning Lab is something that we want to start doing. We started last week, going live and finding out what people are struggling with. So I share some things. I come out and I share some things with other families. And one of the concerns that they have, actually, we all have, I mean, I shared it as well, is because I had to retire out of the military because I wanted to take care of my son. So it was deployments, career, or versus the taking care of the needs of our son. So I decided to make that change. And now, after some time, now he's 18, I get to speak to a lot more families, or now that we're in adulthood transition, it's a lot different. So as we navigate those waters, it brings us to a different place. But I get to speak to a lot of you and find out what your needs are, find out the questions that you have, and try to share my experience and the things that I've learned along the way. So one of the things that came up with, I'm thankful that I have my computer here because it was I wanted to took some notes. So the question was, how can I get paid taking care of my child who has autism? So a family member, just like I have, had to leave their full-time job and to be able to take care of their child, or they had to work some crazy hours or work from home. A lot of families are choosing to work from home as well. But again, the needs of our children become priority. It's hard to work from home when we have a child who needs us one-to-one support. So, but the question is, how can I take care of my child and be paid for taking care of our child? Because we pay in the Medicaid program, you are able to pay others to take care of your child, but many of us are actually leaving jobs and then we're taking care of our children. So, how do we get to be paid to do that? So, thankfully, there is a program that's out there and it's tied to Medicaid. So, I was able to speak to a representative, and the program it's under the Partnership LLCs, Public Partnerships LLC, and it's the Consumer Directed Personal Assistance Program. And through that program, I learned that one, every state is different. So I would recommend, and I'll drop some links in down below once this website or once this live is published. But some of the information that they have online, each state is different, and you have to be Medicaid qualified through Medicaid. So that's the biggest hurdle many of the families have that I've learned, is that a lot of them are not qualified by Medicaid, but that is like the biggest requirement, is to be qualified from Medicaid. And which is different from, if you're qualified from Medicaid, then you can have a self-direction program. So if your self-direction program, that's totally separate from this program. So I did learn that you can, as a parent, as a caregiver parent who is has an adult child at a certain age, each state is different. I'm in New York State, So our age, I believe, is 21. So you are, as of 20, as when my child is 21, then I would be eligible, or my whomever will be eligible, like my husband or I could be eligible to take care of our child full time, because since he's an adult, considered an adult, then we are his caregivers. So he still needs to be supported that way. So through that program, there were some things that we want to make sure that families are aware of, because many parents are already doing the job unpaid. But once you get to past that, whatever that threshold is at that time, at in your state requirements, then you can are able to be seen as a caregiver in the eyes of the state and be able to get paid. So I'm just going to go through else through my notes as here as well. And then the other is, as I said, the eligibility is connected through your Medicaid provider. So the planning is key, just to know that when we went through Medicaid, it was a very lengthy process to go through Medicaid, but it's a lot of paperwork, and so we want to make sure that you're aware that it's a process. So, but if you need the steps along the way, on your each state, each county, each state has their Medicaid requirements online. So I can, if you need help, I'll drop a message in the chat and just say that you need help. But there are, your state has its resources to find out from your Medicaid office and to start from there. So, and again, age matters. So when you're looking at your age, our state is 21 years old. So when our child turns 21, then we would be eligible to for that program. And we want to make sure that you're aware of this opportunity, because instead of uh, there's many families that are feel like they're struggling financially, emotionally, that they have to leave jobs to care for their child even when they become an adult, and it's a struggle, it's a hurdle, and a lot of families are stressed. So thankfully there is some type of program that's out there that can help remedy that um, that problem and give you peace of mind as you're trying to navigate the adulthood transition of your child. So when we are looking at this on the website, I want you just to understand that when we think of the roadmap of the journey to adulthood, the goal is to understand what those steps are to prior to 18. So instead of stumbling on them after the fact, we want to make sure that families are aware of what's happening. So we take the steps and we lay down what the foundations are. So we go through 6 foundations, within our guide to provide that to you. And if you just click the link in my bio, you can get a copy of the guide. And then that will show you what those foundations are, and it will tell you where your risks are and help you guide you to where you need to identify what they are, and then develop a plan of how to achieve the goals of trying to remedy whatever gaps that you may have. So, but we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to come together and share what's happening, and in the challenges of that we're experiencing. So that a question that we had that came to us that we wanted to share is, there's one family that is she has an IEP but doesn't understand how to obtain the services. So I was able to actually speak to um, a couple resources and find out that they would need to pretty much connect with them, like a what is it, the benefits specialist, to connect with them and find out, like, I guess, a little bit more about their background. because just because you have an IEP doesn't mean that you are automatically qualified or automatically get the benefits. One of the great resources that we have in our state is Parent to Parent Connect, and it's a network that is a network with parents. So, as I was a volunteer as well at one time, that we would contact, connect with families who are raising their hand and saying, I need help. I need help, and how do I get the help and to navigate what's happening? So, as parents, we've tried to be able to come to them and let them hear what is their struggle. And we're matched up to people that are at the same ages so we can pretty much give them some feedback and some insight of what we're been challenged with. But utilize the organizations that are in your area to get the information that you need. So when you're coming to these hurdles, again, have a plan and then try to find the people to get that resolution. So today was about funding or finding out how can I fund our needs of our children. So I wanted to jump online and share that with you because, again, there is an opportunity to do that. And that's set aside when your child becomes 18, who is has an opportunity to provide or to apply for Social Security. So Social Security is another bucket that is an opportunity that you can receive a benefit as well for underneath a government subsidy that way as well. And some, depending on your economic status before 18, you'll be able to apply for it as well and be able to find an opportunity to, based upon their approval status, that you can get approved for that. So if waiting to, as like for our state again, is 21. So if it's between there, you can have an opportunity for Social Security, and then at 21, you could there's an opportunity to actually get paid as a caregiver to care for your child. So these are some things that you want to think about again and plan ahead and try to get a roadmap for our child so we're not stumbling at the last bit. So again, we have our guide. That's again, link is in our bio, and then you can download that. You can find out some answers to the questions, and you can always reach out to me as well and find out if additional information to be able to guide you as well. So one other question, actually, there's one other question that comes in, and this person asked about guardianship. So when will I need to start guardianship? So, just so if you're not familiar with guardianship, guardianship is um, when your child turns 18, you are no longer in the eyes of the state that you are legally have control responsibility of your child. Now you got to think of it as a child that doesn't have a disability. When you become 18, you're no longer, the parent is no longer responsible for the child in the eyes of the law at 18. So at with a child with a disability, it's the same thing. So that's, again, that was really one of my drivers of why I jumped online and to be able to share this, because a lot of families do not have their child protected legally. So to apply for guardianship, you need some pieces, you need some key players in the to actually have make that happen. You have to go through a judge, but before you go to the judge, you have to see a psychiatrist and you have to see another doctor, primary doctor. So you just can't file. You have to have some specialists to say that your child meets the requirement of stating that they're going to need some type of guardianship for their life. So, and there's different levels of guardianship, and we can talk about that at another time as well. But for the guardianship piece, just know that you can start before 18 and you can start applying for this the process. Again, we have a guide, and we have a guide that can tell you pretty much a lot about what it is. and there's a DIY website that's available that you can go in instead of going through an attorney, because if you we reached out to attorneys and it's a costly process to do it. So there's a DIY website that you can get online, and you can actually start populating the information. I believe it took about like 30 minutes to an hour to put all of the information in, because we had to find some documents, put all the information in, and then it populates the information. You print out the information, and then you had to get it notarized, and then you have to get it to the doctors, and you have to speak to them to have it notarized, and it gets a packet that's submitted to your county for them to process. So that process can be done beforehand. It can be overwhelming. It can be intimidating because you're looking at these links. I've looked at it before, and it's a bunch of jargon online, and it gets kind of overwhelming. And so, yeah, that's why an attorney can support you. But again, a support attorney support, it's going to cost, and that cost was pretty high for many families, including myself. So was including myself. So we had to do some due diligence and do some research and ask a lot of questions. And we were able to find, like I said, I stumbled upon this website, and I've been sharing it since, to be able to help other families do it that route, instead of actually going through the route of having to pay thousands of dollars out for something that we can do it and have, if you have a good person down at the county, be able just to help you with the documentation, then it can get done. It is possible. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you jumping online here. And remember, it's not too late. Just because if your child's 18, 20, it's not too late. So we can start today and start taking download the guide, start understanding what you're, do a quick review of assessment where you're at with your family, and then let's move forward. I hope to see you soon, and have a great day.